Lot to get to today. Should we be taking the preseason pledge for the Sabres? Also, an update on some lines and what's coming this week as the Sabres head over to Europe. And we got a preseason game to talk about tonight. A new mural in front of the arena. Let's look at it. It looks awesome. That's coming up today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alrighty, thanks for making Locked On Sabres your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. That includes our YouTube channel where you could check us out there. Sneaky Joe DiBiase coming to you today on a Tuesday as we're getting you ready for Sabres and Penguins a little bit tonight because it's not the real Sabres that are going to play the Penguins, but we've got some updates from practice that are interesting to get to. Lindy Ruff making an interesting comment about one of the younger Sabres on the roster. And we've got a new mural to talk about that's going to be out in front of the arena. So all of that is coming up today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. As always, if you want to become a texter in our Locked On Sabres text club, the best way to do that, or the only way to do that, I guess, is go to joinsubtext.com/LockedOnSabres where you can check us out there. Costs you less than a cup of coffee. Depends where you get your coffee. From my place, it would cost less. Maybe from some others a little bit more, but a couple bucks every month. You could hop in, give us a comment, give us a question, and I'd love to have it. Love to have you in the text club, especially as we start rolling into the upcoming season. So a lot to get to on today's show. I do want to get into the mural. I want to get into practice. I want to get into the preseason game that's ahead. That's a 7 o'clock puck drop tonight against the Pittsburgh Penguins. That game will be streamed on Sabres.com and will be on WGR as well. You may have been watching the Bills on Monday night. If you were, little update for you on what the Sabres did playing against the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Bills scored all these points, 34 in the first half, and looked unstoppable offensively. Well, 20 minutes down the road, the Sabres were doing kind of the same thing. Another preseason game where they were unstoppable offensively. Now, chances, gameplay, might want to say this one wasn't as dominant. They scored 6 goals, though, against Columbus. Overall, they played fine. They played great. I think they outplayed Columbus. It wasn't as one-sided as we saw in Pittsburgh the other night. I do think that the Columbus goaltender did help the Sabres out on a couple. But you got some good signs. Owen Power scoring another power play goal is a good sign. I've been talking about his shot and wanting to see more goal-scoring production from him. Zach Benson scoring a typical Zach Benson type of goal, I feel like. He's just kind of around the net, and it's an opportunistic type of goal on the left side, and he's got an empty net, but it's right place, right time. He knows where to put the puck. He knows to get it off his stick, and he puts it in the back of the net. Peyton Krebs, Dylan Cousins get in on the action goals-wise, and those are two players you're going to want to see score more. Matthias Samuelsson, kind of just a whip-around shot from the right wall, not a great angle. He probably scores that goal one of every 500 times that he throws that puck towards the net. The Samuelsson goal, I do want to talk about how everybody responded to me pretty quickly, or a lot of people did. Oh, Samuelsson scored. Are we doing Sammy Squares this year? My Matthias Samuelsson's squares pool, if you will, that half goes for a good cause, half goes to the winner. Yeah, we'll put that together. So if you're a listener or you're a texter and you want to be in on that this year, reach out and we'll get you in on it. We'll definitely go to a good cause. And then finally, that 6th goal by the Sabres, Nicholas Aube-Kubel. Another great game, I thought, by the fourth line. All over the place. They are so fast as a line. They are absolutely the fastest bottom 6 line I've seen play for the Sabres in a number of years. This goal, though, by Aube-Kubel, a little bit of skill. It's a stick handling goal. He's kind of in alone. He's got a little right hand or forehand, backhand move, and he puts it over the goaltender. So a little skill on display there from Nicholas Aube-Kubel. Overall, the Sabres outshot Columbus 29-26. Again, I think They did, 29-26 makes it sound like it was more 50-50. I do think the Sabres were the better team in this game. So maybe they deserve to have that be a little bit more in the other direction. There's one name I want to talk about on the negative end of things. First period. I was going back and forth with this with one texter. Is there a Sabre that's driving you nuts right now? A couple people have reached out about Peyton Krebs maybe being that guy. For me, it's kind of, man, it's Jordan Greenway. I just watched Jordan Greenway, and for the goal by Columbus, the only goal by Columbus, which, by the way, Devin Levi, only goal allowed, thought he played well. Greenway is just kind of standing there off to the side like, dude, you're 6'5". Tie the guy up in front of the net, and that did not happen. So that is definitely the guy for me right now that is going to drive me nuts. We'll see, though, if we do get something a little bit better. There was one other text I wanted to get into before we really dive into the meat of the show. Which one was it, though? I just want to make sure I have the right one. Here it is. This is about this one was about Greenway's play. Had to text in. I have to say something about Greenway's play in front of the net in that first Columbus goal. Incredibly embarrassing because literally the first last thing that I just said. So one texter agrees with me on that front. Anyways, I'll find that text and I'll get it in there before the end of the show. I don't remember which one it was. Anyways, let's talk about the mural that's going up in front of the arena. The same mural had been up for 12 years, basically, and we saw them taking it down last week, so we knew they were up to something. Weird they didn't want to tell us what, but whatever. They had to wait a couple extra days, and now we've got it. The Buffalo Sabres new mural in front. If you're wanting to see this, the Sabres tweeted it out. We put it up on our text group, or if you watch the show on YouTube, we're going to put it up alongside me right here and right now, going from side to side, and it looks beautiful. It looks absolutely beautiful. It could not be, to me, a better job done by the Buffalo Sabres on this front. Going from left to right here, if you kind of play around with who's on the mural, they did a pretty solid job. Now, I like how the goat head is represented and RJ is represented. I thought it would have been cool if they put RJ on it, but I get it. They just did 27 players. On the right side, it's the goat head in blue and white. And on the left side, it's the original logo. And on both sides, right underneath, it's "Here Come the Buffalo Sabres." RJ's legendary call from the Derek Plant Game 7 overtime goal in 1997. But going from left to right, every era is represented. And the red and black era is represented. The slug era is represented. Although they don't have any slugs in here. So check that out. No slug logo represented. But otherwise, I think they kind of got everybody in. And of course, that means my guy right here, but pretty prime real estate, just slightly off to the left, right in the middle, is Maxim Afinogenov. Let's go. He gets on the mural. He was on the last one, and the Sabres know, right? The Sabres know. They know he's the cult hero of the organization all time. Look at, he's even a little bit more lit up than everybody else, like a Russian angel over there standing next to Ryan Miller and Miroslav Shatan. So anyways, you got 6 Goathead players, which are the guys that my eyes immediately get drawn to. Rob Ray in the Goathead, Miroslav Shatan, Maxim Afinogenov, Dominic Hasek, Michael Pekka, and Danny Briere are your Goatheads. The one slug opportunity they could have had, actually, I guess if you look, the very tippy top of Chris Drury's helmet and the little logo on his pants, you do have the slug logo, but Drury is in that third old school alternate from 2007. Jason Pominville is on here. Alexander McGillney in the front row. On the other side of the front row, Thomas Vanek and Pat LaFontaine. And then you've got the old-timers up top. No offense to those old timers if they're watching. But you've got Roger Crozier. Of course, you've got the French Connection standing in the middle with Gilbert Perreault being right there front and center. Lindy Ruff makes his way on here as a player. Dave Andrechuk, Phil Housley, Don Luce, all on here. Mike Foligno, Danny Gare, Larry Playfair, Tom Barrasso in the top right. Is that Dave Andrechuk again? I guess I messed. That's that because I messed up. mustache guy next to Lindy Ruff on the left is Mike Ramsey. That is not Dave Andchuk. Dave Andchuk is on the right side next to Dale Howardchuk. And then you've got Tom Barrasso and Alexander McGillney on the far right. All in all, I think they did tremendous. I don't think they really left anybody out. Is there anybody you could text one in or tweet one in if there's somebody obvious that I'm missing here? But I don't really think they got to a Finneganov. That was the guy I wanted to see the most. Did they leave anybody else out? A couple people asked me about Eichel, but of course they were not going to put Eichel on here, right? No chance they were putting Eichel on here. I don't think he's in good standing right now with the current members of the organization, Kevin Adams, the Pagulas, I would guess. I think the players are fine with him, but the fans, right? And it's the worst era of Sabre hockey ever, and it's not particularly close. So you can't. Who would you choose to represent it? The guy you would have done it with is Kyle Okposo. And I just would have never put Kyle Okposo up there. The Sabres didn't put Kyle Okposo up there. I think it's smart of them to know we're just going to skip over the last 13 years. We want to forget about this era of Sabres hockey. We want to end it first and then forget about it. We don't need to represent it with anything up here. So Vanek and Pominville are your most recent Sabres, and Miller, of course. How about that, by the way? Miller and Hasek at the center. I think that's, the two goaltenders. They should be side by side. And then Gilbert Perreault right in the center. Those are the core guys that should be near the middle of this thing. And then I guess actually that's not the French. Is that I think that's again Tim Horton? No, I thought it was Rick Martin and Rene Robert on either side of Perreault, but maybe that's not. But of course, the French connection is represented. Yeah, so that's a very cool thing, and I think the Sabres did an excellent, excellent job. And for what we're going to see in front of the arena, I'll put it up on our stream, so you can see it, what it's going to look like in front of the rink. I just think it's colorful, right? Like that was one thing about the old mural. Is no color at all. So I guess in that way it was a little boring. This pops a little bit because it's the whole background is this bright royal blue, and then you've got all your colored uniforms, and at the front you've got the black and red. So I think it pops. And I think this is a tremendous job by the Sabres to put this together. And they'll unveil that coming up on October 10th for the opener, the blue and gold carpet for the home opener. All right, enough on the mural. Let's get to some business. Let's get to practice. Let's get to who's going over to Europe. Interesting name that's going with the Sabres. Let's get to the preseason game tonight. I got two players in particular to watch for in this game that's going to feature mostly Amherst against the Penguins. That's all coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are presented here on the show by FanDuel Sportsbook. Man, FanDuel, I had some big winnings last night on that football game by the Bills. And hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, just like I did, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, right, live betting, you can check out the latest stats, do some live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. If there's a game that's, I like to do this with a big favorite. Big favorite that gets down early. Maybe they're down 10-0 in the first quarter. And you think, oh, okay, now I can get that team I wanted to bet on, but I can get way better odds because I think they're going to come back in this game. I love doing that in football. I love doing that in hockey when a good team gets down 1-0 as well. Check it out. Live play-by-play and a bunch more on FanDuel. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Again, that is FanDuel.com to check it out. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Let's get to Sabres practice. A couple of updates there. Who's going on the trip to Europe? The Sabres leave tonight. They are scheduled to leave Tuesday night for Germany, where they will practice there. Then they will leave for Prague after, which is where the regular season games are going to be. Friday, they will play Red Bull Munich. Didn't think of this until today, until Lindy Ruff talked about it. They're playing on bigger ice on Friday. It's like a hybrid, somewhere between NHL and international ice, but they're playing on bigger ice. Lindy made a good point about he's trying to get them to hang out more in the middle of the ice. They're trying to get to the front of the net. They're trying to get to the middle of the ice more. And he doesn't want them going to the boundary. He doesn't want them going to the wall just because they're playing on a bigger ice surface. So that'll be a test for Lindy and the team on Friday. So they're going there. The one name, the most interesting name that's going over there, because a lot of them are assumed, Yuri Kulik is going. That was confirmed. Yuri Kulik is going on the trip. We all thought that was going to happen, right? Like, he had dominated the Prospects Challenge. I said after the Prospects Challenge, I bet he's going to go to Europe because, one, looks like he's earned it, and two, it's his home country. I bet they're going to want him to get him a chance to play in Prague. It might be the only time of his career he'll ever get to do that. So Kulik is going. That's confirmed, and we'll still see if he's going to actually get in the opening night lineup. I think he has a ways to go on that front. He was not practicing on a regular line on Tuesday. He was on one of the extra lines. Rasmus Dahlin, by the way, back on the ice in a non-contact uniform, which is basically the same. At these hockey practices, there's not much contact anyway, but Dahlin was in a non-contact uniform. A couple of updates from Lindy Ruff that I thought were interesting. He did talk about Zach Benson in this game and his opportunity getting to play in the top 6. And Lindy was loving Benson in his comments about how he's exceeded his expectations and how he does so much for a player of his age, and that he's more, he saw him on tape, liked him, and then saw him on the ice or after the summer he put together and was even more impressed. So Benson's been getting that top 6 opportunity, and I don't see that slowing down. I don't, like, Jason Zucker was the other guy we thought could get up there on that second line. I'm betting against that. I think Zach Benson's going to be their second line left wing to open the season, the way Lindy's talking about him and the way he's played, right? Through 2 games, he's looked awesome. The lines, by the way, we'll give you all of them. No big changes, but Tage Thompson with Alex Tuck and JJ Peterka, that's been sticking together all through camp. Dylan Cousins with Benson and Quinn, as previously mentioned. Ryan McLeod was centering the third line with Jason Zucker on the right and Jordan Greenway on the left. That might be the one change I would make if it were me, is I would take Greenway off that line. I would input probably Kulik or even maybe Krebs on the wing. The fourth line, rock solid. I don't see it changing. Sam Lafferty as the fourth line center with Nicholas Obey-Kubel and Beck Malenstein. Those guys have looked very good in the preseason. I don't see them breaking that up, which means the 3 extras at the moment that are going on the trip, Peyton Krebs, Yuri Kulik, and Lucas Rusek. I don't think Rusek's going to play in the opening night game, although same thing with him. Home country, maybe they try to get him in. I don't think they would do that with him. Krebs is probably going to be a scratch the way it's looking now, and he's been so-so in the preseason. He got that goal. Kulik is the one. Kulik is the one where I'm really wondering if he could get in there. The thing is, though, if you put him in the lineup and Benson's going to be in the top 6, he's got to show he's responsible enough to play in Greenway's spot with 2 more veteran, responsible two-way players in Ryan McLeod and Jason Zucker. Because if they want that to be a shutdown line, I don't think Kulik fits. If they want a little scoring flair to it while showing he can be responsible, that's how Kulik, I think, gets in the lineup, is he's got to take Jordan Greenway's spot on that left side of the third line. As previously mentioned, Dahlin was at practice. He was skating with Henry Jokiharju. And then you had Bo Byram with Owen Power and Matthias Samuelsson with Connor Clifton. I kind of like that. I kind of like that 1 through 6. Jokiharju and Byram did not work last year. I do not want to see those two playing together again. So Jokiharju up with Dahlin. Byram gets to play with Power. I think Byram and Power might be the combo that I like the most at this moment. And then Bryson, Gilbert, and Clegg were the 3 extras. So, yeah, that's what we got for practice for you from the Sabres and their upcoming trip to Europe. When we come back, what about preseason games left here? Because we still have a couple, one in Pittsburgh, one in Buffalo, another one in Columbus. Let's talk about the B squad. The Amerks B squad that is going to be playing for the Sabres in the Sabre uniform coming up in the next couple of games. 2 players in particular to watch out for the most. That's coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are presented here on the show by Indeed. And we're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't really to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates faster. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you could connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that are using Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked-on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked-on right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/locked-on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. This episode of Locked On Sabres is also presented by PrizePicks. PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick what more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and just watch those winnings roll in. You could pick win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Want to play PrizePicks alongside top athletes, MMA champion Sean O'Malley, for instance? You can find community plays under the promos tab on the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. Players and stat types are all about for hockey, for football. You got everything available to you with PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. Wrapping things up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. When you are all done with us, be sure to make your next listen Locked On NHL if you're looking for your around the NHL perspective going into the season. Or, of course, if you want to hear more about the Bills trouncing the Jaguars, Joe Marino's got you covered on Locked On Bills. What are we going to get from the Sabres in their preseason games that are not against Red Bull Munich from here until the start of the year? We got 3 more preseason games to talk about for the Sabres, or to watch, if you will. 4. At Pittsburgh, at Ottawa. Forgot about the Ottawa game. At Pittsburgh tonight, at Ottawa Thursday, at Columbus on Saturday, and then home against Detroit on Monday. Those 4 games are all going to basically be Amerks preseason games. They're just going to be wearing the Sabre uniforms instead of the Amerks uniforms. And by the way, the next 2 games, Pittsburgh and Ottawa, are going to be ESPN Plus games. All these games, though, I believe are also being streamed on Sabres.com if you want to watch them there. So, the B Squad. What are we looking at? What is to watch on the B Squad? I won't lie to you. It's not a lot. There's not a ton of names that I think are going to strike the casual Sabre fan as, oh, I got to look out for, no offense to Jack Rathbone. That's a real person. That might sound like a made-up name, right? It does. Jack Rathbone is a real person that is going to be suiting up for the Buffalo Sabres. Who is Jack Rathbone, by the way? Is he, I should look up. Is he a draft pick of theirs? I don't think he's a draft pick. 95th overall in the 2017 NHL draft by the Vancouver Canucks. He has never played. Oh, he has played 11 NHL games, 20 NHL games. All right, so somebody that has actually appeared in the league. I apologize to Jack Rathbone. He didn't deserve that commentary. But anyways, a guy that just will not play for the Sabres unless there's 10 injuries, is going to be in the lineup. Michael Hauser will be in goal. Cool story from a couple years ago, right? Appearing for the Sabres, but just an Amerks guy. Scott Ratzlaff, maybe a little bit, like he's a goalie prospect that will appear in these games. And we'll see if he becomes interesting, but he's not quite there yet for me. A couple of names. The top 2. There are 2 to me that stand above the rest. Number 1, I think, has got to be Konsta Helenius. Konsta Helenius, just simply put, he was their first-round pick 3 months ago and 2 months ago. We have not gotten a real chance to see him against pros. We got a chance to see him in the Prospects Challenge. We've seen clips of his, I've seen clips of his, playing against men in Finland, playing in the men's league over there. But now that you get later in the preseason, You're going to see some more NHL guys, I think, for these teams. And when Pittsburgh shows up, I haven't seen their lineup. They haven't released it at time of recording that I've seen. I might expect there's a few more NHL guys than we've seen before. So what does Helenius look like against, maybe he doesn't get to play against Sidney Crosby, but what does he look like against, is Chris Letang in the lineup? Is Malkin in the lineup? Well, just give me a couple of them. Helenius will be interesting. He'll be wearing number 94. And he is somebody that I wonder if he could be a call-up somewhere in the middle of the year. I think we're all putting to the side here. I mean, obviously, he's not going to Europe, so he is not going to debut in the opener. Nobody playing on this team is going to play in the Sabres opener, or else they'd be going to Europe. Helenius, though, could really earn himself being a call-up and being someone that's a part of the rotation later in the season if he chose to be more pro-ready right away, and then also does it in Rochester. Here's a good point about Helenius to think about because of the scheduling and because of Europe. The Sabres, the first day they showed up at training camp, they split the team in two. They had to kind of guess because they had to get going. They were leaving in 5 days, and they had 2 preseason games. They had to get their NHL guys together. So what camp usually is a mix, which means young guys that otherwise are not expected to be in the NHL might get an opportunity to surprise. That happened last year with Zach Benson. Zach Benson was given the opportunity to surprise. This year, Helenius was not afforded that because of the scheduling. If last year the Sabres went to Europe, Zach Benson probably would not have made the team out of camp. That'd be my guess. Helenius, he might be Zach Benson 2.0, and we just don't know it because he hasn't had a chance to show it. For him, it's going to take a little bit more time on that front, and maybe that can start tonight against Pittsburgh. The other one to watch for me is Noah Ostlund. And for me in particular, he is somebody I want to see. He'll be wearing number 36. We've had Hadi Kalakash of Locked On NHL Prospects on this show call him multiple times over the last 2 years the best Sabre prospect. That is not a common opinion. Most prospect analysts would not put him number 1. I don't know that I've seen more than 1 or 2 others in total that have ever said that about him, but our guy here at Locked On, Hadi Kalakash, thinks Ostlund is their number 1 prospect, and he was very good at the World Juniors. And we haven't really got a chance to see him because he hasn't really played in North America yet. It's been hard to see anything from him playing over in Europe. And on top of all of that, little extra intrigue with Ostlund because he's a part of the Eichel trade. And the Eichel trade, we'll be looking back on that trade for decades. And we'll be judging it for years based on what they get in return. And right now, Alex Tuch is a great return. Peyton Krebs is not. The second-round pick they traded for Jordan Greenway from that trade is not really, in my opinion. The other piece, other than Tuch, that could really turn into something here from the Eichel trade is Noah Ostlund. And my first chance, personally, to see him in like a full game coming tonight. Rochester, that would have happened a little bit last year, too. So, but, in a longer, with the Sabres logo on, playing a high in the lineup. Let's see what we get. Isak Rosen is still playing in this game. Like, I'm not as interested in him as I was. I mean, we're into year 4 now. Anton Wahlberg, a little less so. Ryan Johnson, same thing. So you're getting a couple of other names that are worth watching. But for me, it is Helenius and it is Noah Ostlund to watch in these next 5 games. Again, how many is it? Whatever it is. But tonight against Pittsburgh will be the first of them. Those are the names to watch. All right. Let me know what you think. With these young kids, who do you think might impress? Let me know at our Locked On Sabres text line. If you want to sign up, join subtext.com/LockedOnSabres to become a subscriber. Finn endorses it. That will do it for us today here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.